We are already laser focused on 2025, and I'm excited to tell you that the San Francisco 49ers just got sneaky good news on that front. Plus, later in the video, we're going to be talking about a controversial take that I'm not having, if I'm totally honest with you, but I look forward to seeing what you have to say about it. Thank you so much for all of you who joined me in the comments. It has been a fantastic year on this channel, and I've really enjoyed making videos and engaging with you in the comments section. If you're new here and you're looking for daily 49ers content, hit that subscribe button right there, because we're going to continue this train. It's not going to stop rolling anytime in the near future, because 2025 is something we are really looking forward to. The first piece of sneaky good news coming out of that disappointing loss last night. And I say disappointing, obviously I don't want the draft picks. I'd like to stay where we're at in the draft. I don't want to go any further back, right? But obviously, you also want to see your team play well. You want to see guys getting in rhythm, and it felt so good in the first half. So yeah, there was a little disappointment after watching the second half, and it was clearly a game of two halves and not in the right way. But the sneaky good news is the 49ers schedule is looking fantastic. The fourth place schedule is great, and no matter what happens against the Arizona Cardinals, it's done deal now. This is who the 49ers are going to be playing. That's, of course, the Rams, Cardinals, and Seahawks both ways, but then Falcons, Panthers, Jags, Titans, Bears, and then you have Saints, Bucks, Texans, Colts, Giants, and Browns as your away games. I'm stoked about that. I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for the 49ers to go get things turned around, not only just make the playoffs, but make a deep run in the playoffs. I think that there's a lot we have to remember about these guys being healthy. Guys like Greenlaw, we're going to surely, the 49ers recognize his value and are going to pay him and make sure he comes back and he's ready to go. You're going to have Christian McCaffrey back, knock on wood. You're going to have Trent Williams back, knock on wood. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can improve this team that are still on the roster that have not been playing a great deal this season. You're going to have Brandon Aiyuk back. But then on top of that, this defensive line gets another shot in free agency and the draft to get better. So the 49ers have a chance to improve and go back to a defensive line that the 49ers have been known for in the past. This year has not looked like 49ers defense. And so that speed and violence that we've been waiting for, we have not been having it on the defensive line. So I think that's one of the storylines coming out of the game, is how great Bosa played, but how empty the rest of the line looked, unfortunately. That being said, I'm already starting to get into some other points there. I think that this schedule is something that, the second the game was over, people all over Twitter were just like, yep, over and over and over. And it's something that we have to talk about that I did not mention yesterday's video. So I had to get there. Don't forget also, when I talk about this schedule and I talk about the players that are coming back, don't forget also that the 49ers this year, not only did they have a bad schedule and have to play against tough teams like the Buffalo Bills, like the Lions, like a lot of really tough games this season, on top of that, the 49ers also had a terrible rest differential. And odds are in favor of the 49ers having a better rest differential, because it's almost like it can't get any worse than this. And so it's going to get better by default, right? And the 49ers have had some bad seasons back-to-back in terms of rest. So I'm excited for an opportunity for the 49ers to get a better number there. And just guessing that the law of averages is going to work to our favor eventually, starting next season, I think this is going to be a good situation for the 49ers. That's my guess. We'll have to wait and see how that goes out. But number two, Ricky Pearsall, guys. We started to talk about him last time. This is Ricky Pearsall, who so far has not really had any great yak. So these 141 yards say a lot about what he's doing in his route running, which I think is something that we have not talked about yet this season, but that's what he was brought in for. That's why he's here. He's here to be a man beater. He's here to be that slick Rick route runner, and I'm excited that he played so well. 8 receptions for 141 yards and a touchdown on Monday night. Those 141 yards are the third most by a rookie in franchise history, behind Jerry Rice and Dave Parks. So how about them apples? Obviously, I think someone was commenting and complaining about the reference to this stat. It's not Ricky Pearsall's fault that he ends up in a stat line that he shows up number 3, just behind, Jerry Rice. Okay. it's just the way that it happened. I don't understand why people are getting angry about it. Nobody's saying Ricky Pearsall and Jerry Rice are going to be the same player. Nobody's making that comparison. So I don't understand that frustration. I guess that's just Twitter warriors being Twitter warriors. But I do think it's great anytime you show up in a stat line next to Jerry Rice. I should have wore my Rice jersey for that. That's a good move, right? I'll take that one, absolutely. And I will say, on top of that, okay, so his route running and his man beating, that's figuring it out. Brock Purdy, who's probably getting paid this offseason, whether you like it or not, is finding rhythm with this guy, and that's something that quarterbacks need. If he can become a guy for Brock Purdy, a guy that, they're building a connection clearly, then that's going to be a huge, huge advantage when we face teams who want to put a lot of man against us. So I'm excited about that. On top of that, even, this has all been so far without a whole lot of yak. So if you can get a lot of yak out of him, if he can develop that part of his game, I think where he needs to develop that we have not seen even back when he was in Florida, like he needs to break tackles. That's what you'd like to see. If you can make the first guy miss, like George Kittle, his yak comes because he makes the first guy miss a lot of times. He just finds a way to not take that tackle and then to get an extra 10 or 15 yards out of it. That's all I think that we really need to see out of Ricky Pearsall to really be that next level, and it could be a big deal going forward. Number 3, I was like, my fingers are not on the screen. Special teams are going to improve, guys. Special teams will improve. Do you know why they're going to improve and why I can be confident they're going to improve? Because this is as bad as it could possibly get. Listen to this. I pulled some stats on this, okay? It cannot be worse than this. Moody, firstly, he's going to be gone, or he's at least going to be in a deep competition. Because he's a draft pick, you don't have to drop him. There's no reason to drop him before you select your 53. So as far as I'm concerned, he's probably going to be dropped eventually, but you're probably going to see him through training camp. If we're honest, he's going to be in a competition. They're going to bring somebody big in. They're probably going to invest money into that guy, and so it's going to be pretty obvious, I think, by the time comes. But whatever the case, Moody's going to be gone. There will be an improvement at this position because it can't be that much worse than this. He is 35th in field goal percentage. Anytime you're beyond 32, it's a bad sign. He's 23 for 32. 23 for 32. That's not good. He is 9 for 18 in 40 yards and up. That's a real issue. And that's not because he can't kick the ball far. Remember, Jake Moody can kick the ball almost as far as anybody in the league. So that is 100% accuracy. And we have seen with Jake Moody, this is where I get really concerned. Many times in the 20 or 30 area of yard distance, where he's kicking the ball and it's coming close to the uprights. We've seen point afters where he's kicking the ball and it's getting close to the uprights. You're like, dude, when you're within 35 yards, you should be able to kick it straight down the middle. No arguments, no exceptions. So I think you're going to see an improvement from the kicking position, no doubt. On top of that, the special teams this season has been horrific. Absolutely horrific. All season long, there have been big plays that you can tie to the special teams that you hold them responsible for. And you say, that's you. That game, if that doesn't happen, we win. If that doesn't happen, we win. And it's just all season long. So can the special teams get worse than they have this season? Yeah, of course, statistically, they could get worse. You could say they could get worse, but I don't see a world in which they're getting worse next season. The special teams this year has been atrocious, and I think you're going to see an improvement just by law of averages again on this one. I think that's another good sign. Nick Bosa. Bosa is still Bosa, guys. I'm stoked about that. It was nice to see Nick Bosa out there. Nick Bosa had 7 of the team's 11 pressures and both of the sacks against the Lions. And this was against Peaw Sewell, which is incredible. He is an elite offensive lineman. We talked about him in the offseason, how the Detroit Lions had the number 1 ranked offensive line. The 49ers going into this season had the number 18th ranked offensive line. And I think we've digressed from there. But then you look at Peaw Sewell and you're like, yeah, no wonder why they have such a great offensive line. And Nick Bosa did it against him. And I love that because that's that energy that Bosa puts into, I don't care if you're the number 1 in the league. That makes me feel even stronger that I need to give everything that I have. He comes back in after a horrible hit and what could have been a really, really dangerous, bad injury, and he finds a way to dig in and to make make progress and be productive for the rest of the game. I thought Nick Bosa had a fantastic game. Again, numbers only tell part of the story. We've seen Leonard Floyd with numbers, but do we see Leonard Floyd consistently bringing pressure? I feel like Leonard Floyd, I know this is going to be unfair because he's obviously doing more than I'm about to say, but it feels to me like Leonard Floyd just gets there sometimes. Like sometimes he's just, hey, Leonard Floyd's there. When you're watching Nick Bosa, you see Nick Bosa getting there. You see the process of him. Even when he doesn't get to the quarterback, you're like, ooh, he was just like that close, you know? And Leonard Floyd, it just feels like, not like he gets lucky. He's obviously a great football player, and he puts up those numbers for a reason, but it does feel like the stats don't tell the full story, and the eye test would say Leonard Floyd's not doing enough to move his man and to put his man in position, in tough positions where quarterbacks are making difficult decisions. Even when Nick Bosa, gosh, the guy gets held like every single game, multiple times a game. Even when Nick Bosa isn't past the offensive tackle, he's pushed the tackle back. He's put the tackle in a tough position, in a compromised position. And you can tell from the shape of the pocket how big of an impact Nick Bosa has. And I just want to say, congratulations to Nick Bosa for showing everybody what your attitude is, because this is the same Nick Bosa. Yeah, sure, maybe the money's a little over the top, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But when it comes to money stuff, like I don't want to be too deep into the weeds on the money stuff, because so little of that is actually as controlled as people want to believe it is. I think he should be $5 million less per year. Like, okay, who's going to make that argument, and how's that going to get done get that over the line? Because at the end of the day, he held out, and it ruined the beginning of the season for him, and that's on us too. That's both parties are responsible. The organization and the player and their agent are both responsible for like making sure that those get over the line. So I don't want to go too deep on that one. By the way, highest graded 49ers in Week 17 versus the Lions, George Kittle at 93, Nick Bosa at 89.4. Congratulations, Nick Bosa. Little shout out to Brock Purdy, by the way, for having an 80.2 despite throwing 2 picks. Tells you all of how well he played in the other aspects of the game, so I'll give him some credit there. Ricky Pearsall in there at 78.4. Isaac Guerrero in there as well. So top 5 graded Niners. Look at them. There they are. All right. One last thing I wanted to talk about was this controversial take, and we're already at 12 minutes, so I'm going to have to make this one quick, but I'm going to disagree. I agree with a lot of things David Lombardi says. I disagree with some things as well, but here's something he said last night, and he's kind of doubled down on it today. Shanahan called 16 straight throws for Brock Purdy before he exited the game with an apparent hand issue, 10 of which came during a one-score game. Absolutely bizarre, even in the context of strange pass-happy stretches in the past. I'm going to disagree with this because I think I could be wrong. So, Lombardi could disagree, and that's completely fine, as always. I think Lombardi has like a point that's kind of ingrained in what he's saying. There's an implied point here that because of those pass plays in order or in succession, that the 49ers did not do enough to keep Brock Purdy out of that situation. And that implied point is that Kyle Shanahan's to blame in part for the interceptions. I could be wrong, and maybe that's not what he's saying, but I've seen many of his tweets because I retweet a lot of them. I get them on my feed a lot, and it feels to me like his point is that Kyle Shanahan shouldn't have called 16 pass plays in a row, and that's partially responsible for the interception. And I'm going to disagree at that point, right? I'm going to say, no, I disagree. One, because I think when you look at the situation, a lot of those pass plays just called themselves because of the way that the actual plays rolled out in order. Secondly, I feel like you have to be able to look at a play as a one-off and say a quarterback can still make a bad decision regardless of the number of plays or the situation. At the end of the day, I have not held Brock Purdy responsible for many of the interceptions he's thrown this season. But the ones he threw last night, both of them 100%, in my opinion, on Brock Purdy. I think they're both his fault. Now, the first one, I think he just misses his target. I think Pearsall is there. I think the pass is there. I think the play is there for him to make, and he just airmails it. And he doesn't even hit him it wasn't in stride. It was too high. It was, it was a little behind him, I think, from where he was going to be. The second one, some people are suggesting, I saw you in the comments, thanks for the comment, I think it's possible that Ricky Pearsall ran a route that's slightly different than what he was expecting. I think that's possible. I just don't know. I don't know if there's enough yardage there, if there's enough space there to make that pass, even if Pearsall is a little further out from his route than what he was supposed to be. I don't know. That's a good question. And as far as I'm concerned, Brock Purdy is responsible for both of those picks. And because Brock Purdy is responsible for both of those picks in each of those situations, I'm not going to blame it on the defense because I'm not going to blame it on the offense calling multiple play calls and the defense having time to kind of prepare for that. I do understand the argument that, hey, if you're not going to split the reps like you did in the first half, the more you throw it, the more likely you're going to throw an interception. That part I completely get. If you're going to throw the ball 40 times in a game, which we did, and this is now the second week in a row, and I'm a little confused by it. If you're going to throw the ball that many times and only run the ball 18, from that perspective, I'd say you're increasing your odds of throwing a pick because you're putting more opportunities out there for the ball to be in the air. That I completely understand, and I will agree with. I will not say that Kyle Shanahan calling multiple plays in a row, in my opinion, is the reason that this situation played out. Let me know what you think in the comments on that one. Another comment there, I guess this is less controversial, but Ben Johnson worked Nick Sorensen like a mule last night, took him to the woodshed. Do you agree with that one? Hard to argue with that one. I don't agree with a lot of things Chase Sr. says. I'll agree with that one. Absolutely. My goodness, guys. 5 days until the Cardinals. Looks like Brock Purdy's not going to be playing in that game. So this game will truly be looking at what we see in the Pastronaut, looking at what we see in some of these depth players. The offensive line's going to continue to be beat up. I don't think Spencer Burford's coming back. So as far as I'm concerned, based on what we know right now in this exact moment, I'd say that the 49ers are heading toward another loss potential against the Arizona Cardinals. And that means that their draft position, I think that they can't get any higher than 11. Then their draft position will be 11. Their schedule's already figured out for the season. The season's already been a wash. It's been a wash for a while. I'd really say since Seattle, that's when it really became a wash this season. And we'll just say, what value can we extract from this season as the team has to make big decisions about who they keep. And I look forward to joining you through that every single day. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't miss out on all of the action. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic Tuesday.